You are listening to the Political Periscope, a weekly podcast brought to you by Radio WNET. Interviews on international politics, security, geopolitics, economy, and more, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Today's interview is part of Radio WNET's project on the Bucharest 9, the countries of NATO's eastern flank. Our guest is Jaroslav Nad, Minister of Defense of Slovakia. Political Periscope.
The guest of Radio WNET is Minister of Defense of Slovakia, Jaroslav Nad.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How is Slovakia preparing for the NATO summit in Madrid?
Well, not surprisingly, we're focusing on two things. First is obviously more, I would say, diplomatic preparation with the possible accession or invitation for Finland and Sweden to join NATO, and then discussions about the strategic concept. And then obviously the second part is more military, and that is focused on current situation in Ukraine and current situation in the eastern flank of NATO. Also focusing on strengthening the eastern flank militarily with the presence of allied forces on our territories, including Slovakia and Poland.
What should change in NATO's strategy?
There should be, first of all, reflection of reality, which means that if we thought of possible cooperation and partnership with Russia also in defense, we can see that it is not possible. Simply, at least not with the current leadership in Moscow. So the reflection of this should be certainly in the new strategic concept. And also, this means physical strengthening of the eastern flank of NATO, including with the presence of allied forces.
What should be the conclusion of those reflections?
Conclusion is more allied forces on our territory, more equipment, modernization of our armed forces, and then simply no cooperation with Russia because it does not have any sense. And this should be reflected in the document itself.
More troops in Slovakia or in the whole Bucharest 9?
More forces where those countries consider them to be important. It doesn't matter whether it's Slovakia, Poland, or Baltic countries, or Romania. Simply, we are on the eastern flank, and we need to make from NATO countries in the eastern flank simply a fortress. We need to be ready for, as we can see now in Ukraine, we need to be ready for whatever option, even though we hope it will not happen. But simply this is a must for us as defense ministers to do our best in order to keep our country safe.
Do you think there is any real threat that Russian forces will cross the NATO border?
What I would like to say is that, thanks God, we are members of NATO. Otherwise, I'm sure that Russia would be already in our countries, invaded. As a matter of fact, now when we are in NATO, the probability that Putin would dare to do so is rather limited. But there is still this option, and we need to be ready for all options. Simply, if you want to have peace, you need to be ready for war, and that's the reality of life. So we need to be ready for whatever option, even though we don't believe that Putin would dare to attack NATO, especially after the current reality in Ukraine, when he is not able to reach his goals even there, not against 30 countries of NATO.
And how does Slovakia strengthen its defense force?
When I became the defense minister back in 2020, the defense budget was 1.62%. I believe we'll reach 2% this year and even more in next years to come. We are modernizing our armed forces and significantly modernizing the highest level of modernization ever. And we are also increasing the number of personnel by 20% until the end of 2024. So it really means significant improvement of our defense.
In recent days, the Slovak government has decided to send 8 howitzers Zuzana to Ukraine. Slovakia supports Ukraine with what weapons?
Well, Slovakia, as well as Poland, obviously, we are among those countries that help the most Ukrainians. We have already donated more than 150 million euros worth military equipment aid to Ukraine in book prices back from 80s and 90s, which in reality of market prices today would mean maybe 1 0 more, which means 1.5 billion of euros that we have provided to Ukraine. It's not only about 8 howitzers Zuzana that you were mentioning, it's also about S-300 system, for example, that we donated. And those 8 Zuzanas is, I think, only beginning of the process. So yes, we are helping with whatever Ukraine considers to be important, and all the donations that we have given to Ukrainian was tailor-made by their expectations. They knew what we have and what they need, and we fulfilled that absolutely accordingly.
Do you believe that Ukraine will win the war?
We need to be patient, but I think they will. With all the support they have from dozens and dozens of countries in the world, I'm sure that Ukraine wins, and please don't count a month like we received together with Alexei Reznikov question today during the forum. Whether in December will be end of the war, we don't know, but we will do our best in order to speed the process up as much as possible and to let Ukraine liberate their country so they keep peace and freedom in Ukraine and in the Eastern Europe.
Did you expect such barbarism from Russian troops?
Even elderly people in Slovakia, when they come back to moments of liberation during the Second World War, they used to say that there was this kind of signs of barbarity among Russian soldiers during the process of Second World War. They remember that, and now actually the same thing happens in Ukraine. It's very difficult to talk about it, but as a matter of fact, this is a reality, and I cannot even imagine how people like that can live in this world.
How do you imagine the end of this war?
It's very difficult to answer this question. I think the only option is that there is a change of a leader in Russia, or they simply lose the fight. I don't see any other option.
The government of Slovakia is unanimous. Slovak society is divided into those who believe that Russia is guilty and those who believe that Ukraine is guilty. How is the government dealing with it?
Well, even the situation among population is changing. If you would ask the same question sometimes in January, you would receive the different answer. Now I see that majority of Slovaks simply see that Putin is the one who is responsible for this terrible war. And I think that more people would see reality in Ukraine. They would more support Ukraine and Slovak government that is supporting Ukraine. And obviously the other option is that now, even if somebody thought that Putin would not be able to attack brothers in Ukraine, as they used to say in the past, now people in Slovakia can see that Putin is capable of doing anything, really, what appears in his head. And this has a real impact on position of Slovaks. I can tell you that the current support for NATO membership in Slovakia is the highest ever. It's more than 70%, which even half a year ago was maybe circulating around 50%.
Are those research, which we know about, true, that only 16% of Slovaks are willing to defend their own land?
Even when this polls appeared, I simply was against the result of it. I'm not sure about the question, how it was asked, and what is actually outcome of that. But I can tell you that even 16% is, I think, almost 800,000, I think, or so. So if there are 800,000 of Slovaks who would be willing to defend our country with the gun, it's not that small number. And I read the similar poll research from Hungary, I think 2 weeks ago, and it was 18%. So it really depends, but I think that at the end of the day, if that situation happens, then all Slovaks would be ready to defend our country.
How do you evaluate Poland's role in the whole conflict in Ukraine? What is the relationship between Poland and Slovakia? What is the military cooperation like?
Poland is doing an excellent job, really, helping Ukrainians in a very, very significant way, and I only can pay tribute to your country and the decision of your government to help Ukrainians in such a big amount, not only in terms of military equipment, but also in many other areas. And cooperation between Slovakia and Poland, not only in terms of helping Ukrainians, but also non-bilateral defense cooperation is excellent. Mariusz, my Polish counterpart, is a very good friend of mine. We are in very close contact. We communicate very often. Poland will take care of our air policing soon, until we receive F-16s from the United States that we acquired. So really the cooperation between our countries is excellent, and I'm so grateful to the Polish government for these concrete steps they're taking.
Mr. Minister, is there any question I haven't asked?
I think you fulfilled. But again, let me express my gratitude to those people from government, from the parliament in Poland, but also population of Poland, who are very clearly on the side of Ukrainians, help millions of refugees that came from Ukraine to Poland. It is unique, and this brings us all together. This is really how the Slavic brotherhood should look like, not the thing that we now see from Moscow.
Thank you very much for the interview.
I thank you very much.
This was the Political Periscope. The podcast is released every Thursday at 7 p.m.